We went for our walk yesterday, my wife and I and our son, and I asked them, I said, how has me being adopted affected you? My son turned to me and he said, I don't think it really has. I said, really? And he said, you never made it an issue in our lives. And I thought that's really interesting. That's really great. And I turned to my wife and I said, what about you? Same? And she said, oh no, not at all. Hi, everybody. Kevin Barhyde here. Thanks for tuning in. I think my wife was really right when she said, oh no, it's definitely affected. It's definitely been a part of our life, a part of our marriage. And I was really surprised at some of the ways that she expressed how my being adopted had affected our marriage and affected her. And I was even more surprised, I think, at how far back it went. Because we've been married almost 25 years. And I remember there were days right after we got married when some of the things that came out were a lot of the deep fears of abandonment, the deep fears of this isn't going to last. Now that you're with me and you know me, you're going to leave me. And she reflected on that and said, yeah, that's right. I remember over and over and over again, what do you want, a divorce? Littlest argument would be, what are you going to leave me now? And I said, yeah, that really happened. I remember that in our early part of the relationship. Thank goodness it didn't last. And she said, oh, no, it did. I said, well, thank God it wasn't earlier when we were dating. She said, Kevin, it was always there. I think one of the things that really came out almost more than anything else for me was when I really thought about how my wife expressed how much I wanted, how much I had these deep, deep, deep needs and even these wishes that just didn't seem to connect with how a relationship, especially a spiritually founded and grounded relationship, would develop. And I think it's these needs and these wants and these wishes that really developed over the many years of childhood and then adulthood, and even now to this day, understanding that I have needs and I have wants and I have wishes just like any person would, but mine are slightly off kilter. Mine have a slight tilt to them or a slight lighting to them that doesn't quite line up with, say, the relationship my wife and I tried to have. What did make it really helpful all those years was direct communication, to the best of my ability and to the best of my wife's ability. The communication, even when we were dating, about this is what you're getting into. My being able to communicate with my girlfriend at the time, I'm adopted. And these are some of the ways that I feel. These are some of the fears that I feel. These are some of the pieces of myself that I bring to the table. Some of them are broken. Some of them are skewed. Some of them are blessings. Some of them may never make sense to you and probably won't even make sense all the time to me. But they're everything that I am. And they're the things that I'm made of. These are my wants. These are my needs. These are my wishes. And when my wife, when we were dating and when we were engaged and when we were married and when we decided to have children and raise a family and live together, she accepted that these were the wants that were going to be a part of her life. She knew that when she was with me, she had to take on my wants. She knew that I was bringing wants to the table as her boyfriend, as her husband. She knew that her lover had wants. She knew that the father of her children had wants. She knew that her best friend in her whole life had wants, and her soulmate wants. And I think early on in our relationship, even as of the first date, she knew that. There were signs that pointed to it. The very first time that we met in Washington Square Park on a blind date, at the end of the date, she asked me to sing to her, and I did at dusk in September. And the song I chose was Blood and Fire by the Indigo Girls. Just came into my head. And there's a line from that song that I think exemplifies exactly what I, as an adoptee, I, with my abandonment issues, bring to the table. I'm looking for someone who can take as much as I give and give back as much as I need and still have the will to live. Because I am intense, I am in need, I'm in pain, I'm in love. But I feel forsaken, like the things I gave away. Those are the words that I sang to her on our first date, and that is exactly the way our relationship began to unfold. Because while I have needs and I have wants and I have wishes, the wants especially were formed as I want my mommy. I want my mommy and I didn't have my mommy. And that's not what I was looking for in a relationship with my wife. That's not what I was looking for in a relationship with my girlfriend, with the mother of my children, with my best friend, with my soulmate. It's not what I wanted. It's not even what I needed, and it's not what I wished for. But there's an underlying sense of I have unmet wants. There's pieces of my life that were always feeling like I was undone. I was missing something. I was lacking. And that lack of connection, that lack of belonging, that lack of acceptance of worth and of value, because I had been relinquished by my biological mother, transferred to anyone that I loved and transferred to almost anyone that loved me. Those wants, needs, and wishes materialized slowly but surely as we got to know each other, but more so as I got to know that these wants that I had could never be met by another person. The relinquishment was still going to be the ultimate wound. The relinquishment, that separation at birth, that being let go, that being discarded, was going to be something that was going to literally haunt me throughout my life. And the only way to even begin to heal that, in a way that I could grow and that I could shape a new relationship with people in my life, with my own adoptive parents, with my children, with my friends, with my coworkers, with the world around me, and especially with my soulmate, especially with my wife, especially with the love of my life, was going to have a spiritual foundation. And it wasn't easy. And it's still not any easier today some days than it was so long ago, when I would cry my eyes out and think, you're going to leave me, you're going to leave me, you're going to leave me. Sometimes there's still those moments at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep. She's sleeping right next to me. And I'm almost sad to say, not ashamed to say, but sad to say it here today, that while my beautiful wife is sleeping next to me, sometimes I still have that feeling like this is going to end. This is not going to last. This woman of my dreams, and I'm the man of her dreams, it's going to fall apart. It's going to be all over. I know she's going to leave me. I know it's going to break apart. But I'm able to come to a spiritual understanding even at 2 a.m. I'm able to come to a spiritual balance, a spiritual understanding of who I am and who the person next to me is. She's my wife. And she's my lover, and she's my best friend, and she's the mother of my children, and she is forever my soulmate. And she's the one I can trust with all of my fears and all of my hurts and all of my pains and all of my loss. And she's the one that can hold me and sometimes rock me to sleep, as she has many times. But she's not my mother. She's not my mother. She's not the one that relinquished me, and she's not the one that's going to relinquish me. The relationship I have with my wife isn't separate or divorced from the abandonment. It's not void of that neglect and that relinquishment, but it's not based on it either. They're not separate from that, but they're not based on that. They're based on the spiritual life that my wife and I have chosen. They're based on our love for each other, which is based on a spiritual understanding of why we're here. Our relationship as a couple is not based on filling my wants for my biological mother, my wants as an adoptee who was relinquished. It's about my wants to be of service to my higher power. And us as a couple, being a couple, and our pure want is to be of service to God and others. There's a wonderful book that I used to read to my boys when they were growing up, and I almost cried half the time when I read it because it meant so much, something so different to me than it would ever to them. And I'm so grateful, like my son said, my adoption, my relinquishment, my pains, my abandonment didn't affect him. And I love that the boys would see the bird being placed in the nest and being back home with its mother as the beauty of it. And it's funny because the thing that I felt the most strongly about was that giant piece of machinery, that deus ex machina, bringing the bird back to its mother. See, I can't find my mother, and even if I could find my mother, and even if I could connect with my mother, I couldn't have that relationship unless it was a spiritual setting, unless it was something that my higher power delivered me to. I know there's a lot going on in a lot of our lives, And I know that we've been focusing on staying at home, and you can see I actually have the camera and I have some lighting here, and I'm trying to make this into a little studio, but this is my bedroom. But I wanted to bring us to a different place. I wanted to start talking about some of the things that I originally put this channel together for, because there's going to be some days that are coming where we're not going to be locked into our homes anymore, where we're going to be moving on with our lives. And I think it's important for me especially to remember why I started this channel. What were my needs? What were my wants? What were my wishes? If this is your first time here, please subscribe. If it's not your first time here, or even if it is, please share this video with others. Make sure you like it, and I love if you could leave a comment. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.